Hi there, we're back to Bitcoin today and we'll still continue to look at Bitcoin through the Wyckoff lenses. And today's price being suppressed, is it signaling something that we should pay attention to? Let's find out. Here we're looking at the weekly chart of Bitcoin, and currently the weekly candle that we're in, we still have roughly 2 days left, but the volume itself is a little bit higher than the past 7 weeks, so almost reaching the mid-May levels. If the remaining 2 days shows a higher degree of selling, then it may be signaling this upthrust or upthrust of the distribution is over. So why there are two tags over here? If you have been following along in my previous sessions, then you know what they are. If you're new, basically the blue ones are the earlier scenario where we look at the patterns. It looks like that it is. The yellow ones, I think, started a few months back already. While I was talking about the blue scenario, I also mentioned the yellow one may be a possible scenario as well because of the price fluctuation during the PSY where I have tagged here. But then you can also consider that as like a buying climax with some second test, etc. So that was this tricky part when the distribution cycle is developing. We try to determine what stages it is at. So back to the chart itself, if either of these cases are true, we know that after these stages, those are the peaks, right? So eventually there will be price retracements. That price retracement may be steep or may be more gradual. The difference is if this is really an upthrust of the distribution, then that should be more like a final stage of a distribution cycle. Whereas if it's an upthrust, there's still a chance that an upthrust after distribution happening after it. So that's the major difference. However, in the short term, after the peak, then we know there will be some sort of retracement and consolidation before it can get to test a new high again. So here, again, the volume is key. As of this moment, people are fighting around this equilibrium position at around 118K. The positive side, I would say, is this yellow channel box is still hasn't been broken, so the price is still well within this box. As long as it's still within there, then there shouldn't be a problem. Like, is it going to fall deeply? There is always the first support over here, around 113K, I would say, as of this moment, 111 to 113. Then it will test the 105K support line. As long as it stays within this box, this yellow box, then the upward trend is still going on. However, there's one thing over here that you see this upward wedge, right? This upward wedge in candlesticks analysis, that's a sign that it's indicate a certain direction is coming. So the tip of this wedge is near end of October, early November, but we know the breakout normally wouldn't wait till the very tip to happen. It may happen a week or two earlier. So we're probably around 2.5 months away from that breakout. Obviously, you can do it earlier as well if there's significant news coming out that triggers the change of direction or puts it further. So if we take a look at the Keltner squeeze, there's no squeeze at the moment. So that's pretty much the big picture. Don't be surprised if there's a bit of price retracement, even though the price hasn't hit like the ceiling of both boxes yet. The ceiling is around 132k. That's the point over there. It can go a little bit higher, but the blue channel is difficult to break. So you see these 5 candles over here, right? They weren't able to break above this channel ceiling. Likewise over here. So irrespective of where the Wyckoff stage is, these two channel boxes are key, let's say, additional references in like adding to the Wyckoff lens. So to the daily chart, here we previously tagged a couple of tags over here, and this is currently an upthrust. Given all the previous tags, if we have named it correctly, some second tests after the buying climax, and currently we're at an upthrust, and again it's still within the yellow channel box. The thing is, this red, very tall red bar, volume bar over here on Tuesday, that's a level where we only see during the selling climax back in late February. So when the price got to this level, around 120k, there was very significant selling. So again, we talked about this many times, right? Whenever the number is like when you hit a unit or like tens or hundreds, those are psychological, how should I say, like a cornerstone or whatever, or anchors. Anchors is the better word. So the psychological anchors, our minds use to trick us, like, oh, we like to set our stop loss or profit taking orders at numbers where they are like having no decimals, or it's like a 10 or 100, 120 in this case. So they're all the same. So here, like I said earlier, if this is an upthrust, it may come back and test this support. So the support right now, interestingly, there's a crossover here. If it really happens in the coming week, this 109 or 110 support is the first stop it's going to test. Remember, in the daily time frame, things happen very quickly. So I'm not surprised if it really comes down in the next 5 to 7 days, much like what happened during mid-late June. So similar to the weekly, it's not that it's over. It all depends on whether this upward trending box support line, basically the bottom of the box, is going to hold this trend. So if we see more of these green bars of similar height coming in, then there's a good chance that the upward trend will continue. If not, then after breaking this support, then the second support would be at around 100k, like mid 99k to 100k. That's where the sign of weaknesses were. If it really fall deep into a new accumulation cycle, much like in March, April time, then the bottom or the support where we can find is around mid 70k. So that happened before in March and April. It can certainly happen again. Interestingly, so the crypto bills in the US has been passed by the House, and like basically it's in the White House office pending to be signed, or maybe even signed already by the time I'm talking about this. So it's really a question whether it is a sell the news scenario. So some people buy the news. That's kind of like a late stage FOMO activity. The bigger players may be selling the news. because it's a great time for them to offload whatever they have in hand to people FOMOing in. So be careful, this may be such a scenario, unless after signing the bills there are a whole lot of adoption taking place across the major chains. Otherwise, if it's only like opening the door for the entire industry, you can go back and check what happened in the dot-com period. So yeah, a lot of excitements over there, and then it's all optimistic. But then if you look at what are the major dot-coms or like services today, a lot of them weren't there during the dot-com bubble. They happened, or they basically thrive after that period. So are we in the same period where blockchain projects and services, they are obviously the early birds or early adopters have their early movers have their advantage, but then there's still quite a bit of risk as well because of the technology evolvement or like evolution. So later chains, they may be more advanced or more efficient than the older chains if there's no sufficient developer support, or like the design itself is basically constraining the growth of those older chains. So pay attention to all these scenarios and the news, whether the adoption or the chains development are still keeping up, because yeah, the environment may be improving for the entire industry, but it may not be the case for certain individual chains. So while we ride this tide, be cautious that this may be near the end of massive distribution. So